see, we're pretty heavily into costume today. That's what we're super into. We like to kind of get a little bit of an element of, I guess you'd say, a LARP in it. We all, when we are in our get-up, we all adopt different names, which gives us a little bit more of a real sense to our performances. So we're not just shouting at each other in a name that you would never hear in Star Wars, right? Which is super awesome. And if you guys want to see anything more that we do on Facebook and Instagram, you can find us at Jedi Academy Association. Alright. Good. So to start off today, the first thing you gotta know is the forms. And I'm Master Casbega. That's my name for today. Usually I'm a Jedi, I think I'm a Sith, and I'll be talking about Form 1, which is Shicho, Way of the Sarlacc, or the Determination Form, whichever one you want to call it. Now Shicho is the first thing you learn as a youngling. That's the first thing we teach you when you show up at a practice with us. It's where you learn your basic zones, your basic strengths, and the basis of all choreography would be its Shicho. It's the easiest and simplest form, but in the hands of the master, it looks the best. It's fluid, it flows like a waterfall. So for demonstration, what you for Shicho, we just learn the first 4 strikes. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you go through choreography, you can switch that up. Go 2, 3, 4, 1. And any sort of combination like that is super basic, back and forth, quick strike rhythm. Alright. Master Lee here will take over Form 2.
So Form 2, most commonly known as Makashi, is the way of the Salamuri and is the way of intention. And this takes most of its fundamentals from fencing. So it's a much more finesse based. The starting stance is usually here, unless you're half Duke and then you stand like this. But the point of this is to parry and then hit the enemy with a stab. And so in Makashi, you'll see a lot of quick stabs, a lot of really light parries in the stabs, and really light slashes. It's very reminiscent of French fencing. So any information you know about that also translates to this. Next up, we have Form 3.
Hello, I am Knight Sentinel Eric Tarn, and Form 3 is known as Seresu, the Perseverance form, or the Way of the Minot. It is also sometimes known as the Perfect Defense. It was originally created when the Jedi started fighting a lot of people with blasters as opposed to a lot of Sith or other sword wielders. Its most famous practitioner is Obi-Wan Kenobi. Its starting stance is dominant foot back, blade up across, and then a hand out as a challenge to bait them in, at which point you get down low, keep your blade here, keep it moving so that you maintain momentum. An object in motion tends to stay in motion. And at that point, you just parry, block. If you're fighting people with blasters, you keep the blasters away from yourself and direct the bolts back until you don't have anyone shooting at you. If you're fighting someone with a saber, you just keep your defense up, wear them down. More aggressive fighters will wear themselves out a lot faster than if you're just parrying and dodging strikes. Once they're worn down, a quick slash is all it takes. Fight's done.
It is said that a Form 3 master, a perfect Form 3 master, can go outside in a rainstorm and not get wet.
It's true.
That's how the defense they have.
Which leads us on to Form 4, what I practice is Ataru, the Way of the Hawkman, the aggression form. Now Ataru is not something you want to do if you have multiple combatants or against blaster fire. It's completely different from Form 3. It will not be effective if you're fighting some stormtroopers and trying to get through there. It's really good for one-on-one combat. It's all about aggressive movements, short, quick, and about force-powered acrobatics, which you can't do in real life. So that's the cool thing about short films is the power of editing. You can make it look like you did just jump 30 feet in the air and do a flip, when in reality you might have jumped off a tiny little trampoline in the process. The most famous of those practitioners are Yoda and Qui-Gon, which in the movies you can obviously see Yoda jumping up and down, doing flips and all of that. And the way he achieves that is by propelling the force through his body. Form 4 practitioners often use the force to get more speed and stamina, because you don't want to fight for a long time with Form 4, you'll just end up losing. All right. We have Bash for Form 5.
Form 5 was created the way of the Crate Dragon, the Persistence form, from masters of both Form 2 and 3 who wanted to combine the two. They thought that perfect defense of Form 3 was great, but prolonged combat with Form 3 was just a little too dangerous. You eventually would get overwhelmed. So they created two different styles. Form 5 is both Xian and Gem So. Xian is more defensive. It is a lot like Form 3. It's very blaster oriented, so you're always keeping your saber in motion, deflecting blaster fire, but Form 5 puts more of an emphasis on not just deflecting blaster fire, but returning blaster fire. You turn it into the bolt and send it right back at whoever's shooting at you. Gem So takes the defensive style of Form 2 and makes it more aggressive. Form 2 is very parry strike, where Form 5, starting here, is your parry immediately counterattack. Straight into aggressive style of fighting. It is peace through superior firepower. And you can see that in any of the movies. The most famous users of Form 5 are both of the Skywalkers, Anakin and his son Luke.
I'm Jedi Master Daily Lucasa, and as you can tell, I look a little different than my compatriots because I'm a Twi'lek from the planet Ryloth. I am a Form 6 practitioner. Form 6 is called Niman, or Way of the Rancor, or the Moderation Form. Form 6 developed out of a need to teach non-combatant Jedi combat skills. At the height of the Jedi Order, there were 10,000 Jedi across the galaxy, and only 1 in 10 of them was a Jedi Knight. So folks you'd see like Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, folks that were going out into the galaxy to combat evil. Most Jedi had other jobs. They were part of the Agri-Corps, where they helped farm worlds. They were part of the Archaeology Corps or the Explorer Corps, which are some of the most unknown Jedi, where they would go out and explore regions of the galaxy where were either lost to time or had never had somebody go there before. And so for those people, and a lot of them were diplomats. In fact, Yoda said that he was a diplomat first. That was his first calling to the Jedi Order. It was most important for him to be diplomatic. And then after that, he was a warrior. And so for the Jedi consuls, those people who went out and acted as diplomats, they needed a form of lightsaber fighting that was going to be able to get them through all situations. And so that's where Niman came from. It's considered a jack-of-all-trades form. And it's noted that it doesn't have any particular weaknesses, but it doesn't have any particular strengths either. So it's very, almost a bland form, and it takes pieces from all the other forms except Form 2. Now this is where it gets interesting, because some of the most dangerous lightsaber fighters of all time have been Form 6 masters, because Form 6 really relies on creativity rather than rote response. So in Form 5, in Form 4, in Form 3, you'll learn if someone does this, you do this, and that's how you beat them. You don't learn that in Form 6. In Form 6, you're encouraged to create creative responses to try to end combat quickly. Now, since most Form 6 users do not spend time perfecting that, they also often fight with 2 sabers, which is called a Jarkai stance. It's not its own form. It's a piece you can add to almost any form, except really Form 2. It's harder in Form 4 as well. But anytime someone's fighting with 2 lightsabers, if you've watched the Clone Wars cartoons, that's Asajj Ventress or Ahsoka Tano. That is called a Jarkai tactic, but they're actually practitioners of other forms. The most famous, I guess maybe infamous Form 6 practitioner is the first person who founded the Sith Empire in the Legends canon, Exar Kun, and he is one of the main villains in the Star Wars universe and is considered to be one of the most deadly combatants in lightsaber forms, and he used Form 6. Form 7 is known as Juyo or Vapad, depending on which form you practice, and it is very dangerous because it requires you to create an empathic link with your opponent and use their anger redirected back at them. That's very difficult, and most Jedi who try it fall to the dark side. Only one master of Form 7 has ever existed, and that's Mace Windu, and that's why his lightsaber is purple. Also, because Sam Jackson wanted a purple lightsaber, and honestly, it looks dope. But Mace Windu, that he was gifted the Kyber crystal when he mastered Form 7, and it's so dangerous that Mace Windu only ever taught it to one other person, and it was his Padawan, and that person never mastered the form. In fact, when that became dangerous for that person to practice, he was forbidden from using it. And so Form 7 we don't do as a club, also because it's harder when you're choreographing fights to actually create empathic links with people because we're not actual Jedi as much as we wish we were. And so that form is really hard because it requires creating a mirrored link. It's really hard to represent in cinema. The way they do that in the movies is minimal effort for maximum output. If you watch the way Sam Jackson fights, he makes very small movements for really big impact.
All right, now the most exciting part of this panel, perhaps, so I think anyway, are two lovely performers here, Bosch and Daly. They're going to do a bit of their routine for us. And then we're going to kind of walk you through how we choreograph the routine. And then once we're done with this, we'll take some questions and show you with some of our lightsabers how to do the strikes on your own.
Normally we have more space than this, so we're going to have to be careful also, keep an eye out there. We'll do about 4 moves and then we'll let you talk about where they're coming from. You guys can jump in.
So slow.
Yeah. 3, yeah, half speed.
So if you notice, when they go in to hit each other with their bodies, they're not going at their full strength. And when Daly gets hit, he's not actually getting hit by Bosch. What he's doing is reacting like he's hit. He's taking all the pressure away from Bosch, so he's not actually injuring his own stomach.
You can also see that not only is blocking with your saber a very important part of choreography, but how you move your body in response to attacks is also very important. This is important in choreography and for regular fighting. So in order to dodge the low strike, he lifts his leg. Very simple, like dot, and then the original pushback of the horizontal slash is another way to control this.
I can't move, so. And then,
So the way we do our force pushes is basically, you gotta prepare, your partner's gonna throw their hand at you, and you just have to yeet yourself backwards as hard as you can. It's just a yeet. Full, throw yourself, make sure you don't hurt yourself. But use as much momentum as you can, as much speed. Curving your body in if you get hit in the chest is the best way to show that there's a force that came at you. Even though we're not actually using the force, we want to simulate it as best we can. And one thing, if you watch how they strike, they're always paying attention to where can I strike next. That way it makes the fight more believable. They're never leaving an open spot where their opponent can just instantly kill them in the middle of a fight. We will try to make it as believable as possible, so there's no room for error for our Jedi or Sith. The one thing you have to be careful of when you're spinning, you want to spin as fast as you can. So if you leave your back to your opponent for a long period of time, they can just turn behind you and go, just tickle you with their saber.
Tickle us.
Yeah, tickle you with the saber.
Also, with the parry that they did in the middle of that with the spin, you have to be careful about when you're doing those, and you have to practice those quickly, because if you practice them slow and you do it quickly, the person...
That wasn't that kind of choreo.
But the person that is being parried can let go of their saber because they're not expecting the centrifugal force that you get when you do spin.
And you just throw your saber, and it's embarrassing.
or if you're standing too close, you accidentally go in front of the head.
Yeah.
It's a really hard piece of
Oh,
plastic.
Yeah.
it hurts. I can attest to that.
That's just sorry. You'll also, for those of you who noticed, I've turned my saber upside down at this point. This is a really bad way to use a normal sword, but since these are laser swords, you can do it.
No, it's also a really bad way to use a laser
Hey,
sword.
back off the Ahsoka. Back off the Ahsoka. In Daman, it's one of the form that I practice. This is one of the ways that I evoke that on stage. Is Daman is one of the only forms where you'll ever do this.
So she in part 4.
Yeah. So I actually flip my saber back and forth a lot during my choreography to try to evoke that part of Naman. Also, Naman encourages a lot of incorporation of force power. So earlier when I pushed the Oshkosh, that's actually part of the canon approach to Naman. So. you've never been hit in the stomach, we can help you.
Yeah. I can help you right now. Yeah.
Also, I don't know if you noticed, but since Vosh is a Form 5 practitioner, it's a lot of overwhelming force, and that sequence was 3 very powerful overhand chops. And that's very common if you look at the way Anakin fights. It's very powerful overhand chops, so it's something that you're going to see in the series.
Also of note, in Form 5 you are very powerful, but with a lightsaber you don't necessarily need power behind the strike like you would with an actual sword to cut through someone. A very quick light tap will go through them just as well as a full powered strike.
These are very hot.
Yes.
So they don't drop any heat.
Until they're eaten.
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay, so then.
And you see here, so this duel's between 2 units. We're not actually going to kill each other, right? It comes to kind of oh look, I could kill you, but I'm not going to. And at the start of when we do this set of performances, we say, hey, we're setting our lightsabers to stun. This is fun fact. That is setting training sabers have, apparently. I didn't know that until I started this club. It's just interesting.
And the other thing is, this is actually, sometimes when we do performances, we're not our official characters, so McKenna today's dressed as Sith, this isn't how she would normally look.
I'm usually a full-on Zabrak. Got the horns, the tattoos, and I'm a Jedi.
And so sometimes our performances have our actual characters in them, and sometimes they don't. And for this set, this was a piece that Basha and I did for our very first public performance, and we decided we wanted everybody to be in their main characters. And so we set it up as a friendly duel that would lead up to 2 Padawan taking their trials. And that's the story that we got here. So Basha and I went first, and it ended in that kind of duel, and then we had a discussion about how you've got to feel your opponent's movements, and you have to rely on the Force, and you can't just rely on the Force for aggression. And so it had this kind of theatrical element. So
Rue and I did ours for this performance, but we can't do ours in this space, it's much too small. I forced him away, kick him straight in the chest, he kicks me, I go flying, punches me in the stomach, he rolls.
That's an important thing to note is when you're choreograph the space that you're
Yes.
performing in. All these fights, the one they were talking about, the one they just did, was choreographed for an open space. If we were choreographing for a space like this, we would be taking into account the fact that there are tables and overhead lights.
We'd be using a lot more Form 1.
Also,
yeah, we might even get in between you and use you as human shields.
Do some rolls over the table.
Certainly.
They're on wheels, so just kick them in.
also going back to what David was saying, whenever you're filming something, especially, but whenever you're performing something, you need to make sure that your fights have a purpose. Without a purpose, a fight becomes boring and repetitive. So remember that if you're trying to choreograph something for other people to watch.
Alright, so I have any questions?
What are we looking at time-wise? Anyone? 11:20. Oh, we're plenty of time. Okay. Yes.
So the dual lightsabers that you see by Molly, what form is that?
So Darth Maul uses them as Baha, and Jedi would generally use them as Naman because it's similar to the 2 lightsabers.
7 and 6.
It can be done in Form 3, but it's not.
So there's two kinds of I guess we'll call extended lightsabers. There is what's called the dual-ended lightsaber. This is also known as a lightsaber staff, although that's not necessarily what it really is because you can't use it like a bow staff.
I can't be spinning this around my body, I'll cut myself in half.
And you can't choke down on it either,
No.
like you can on a real bow staff, because you cut your hand off.
Yeah.
And nobody wants that, trust me. This is called the light pike. This is from the extended universe. They've never had one of these in a movie, but they've been in the video games and in the books. And they're primarily used, again, I remember when I talked about people who aren't very good at lightsaber combat. A lot of temple guards, folks who aren't Jedi Knights, will use these kind of bizarre or less common forms of lightsabers in order to gain an advantage.
Temple Guard also have a slightly modified version where they have a blade on the other end. They're just really small.
So if this were a lightsaber blade, the Temple Guardians would use that, and so it's just a really short form of a dual-ended lightsaber. So, typically at a saber temple, if you were a real Jedi or a real Jedi youngling and you were coming up, if you wanted to use one of these, you'd be trained in Form 6, which is what I do, because that's also the catch-all for all the weird stuff.
Yeah.
There are such weird lightsaber variants as light whips, which I don't understand, but apparently somebody wanted them. And that's also a Form 6 training. So anything that's weird gets shoveled into Form 6, which means that the very best Form 6 users are given a title, usually Weapon Master, and it's because they have mastered weird forms of lightsaber combat. And so if someone wants to use them, they go to them, even if it's not their primary style.
Note that Sith will use any type of lightsaber with a pod, because harder means better, right?
Yes. Sith's approach to Form 7 is, I am angry, let me smash you with whatever it is that I can find.
Yes. All right.
Other questions? That was a good question.
If not, does anyone want to learn some of the basic strikes of a lightsaber? We
Anyone
brought some more extra sabers today for you to try out.
Anyone know? Yeah, come on up. If you want to learn how to do some lightsaber fighting, come on up.
Don't be afraid.
Take that. Anyone else?
Don't be shy, we got plenty of them.
Yeah. Sit back that way.
Give me lightsaber name.